Happy Wednesday night. Welcome to Deep in the Plus. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thank you guys, as always, for being with us. We appreciate you. Business out of the way first, you got to subscribe to WDWNT TV, this channel, for more great content, including Disney Entertainment News Today. We're going to have the return of News Tonight, and then also we've got Park Center. So please subscribe, but also give this video a like because I got to tell you, I'm going to like this one because we've got two of my favorite people, Maleko, Lauren. How are you?
Aloha, Rob. Doing great. How are you?
I am just tickle pink. I appreciate you guys so much being on. I said last week this is the only couple that we ever have like as a duo on this show, and it's special. So thank you guys for being with us. I appreciate it. Just for background, when we first started doing this, Maleko, you and I know each other. You were in radio with the iHeart business, and when we first started doing this, I think Lauren was behind the camera prompting you, telling you all the things to say about Disney movies. But when we first started, we did Lilo and Stitch and we did Moana. And then I was joking last week that you eventually said, I could do something not Hawaiian. And you were like, we did Mary Poppins and it was awesome. And then you and Lauren were on and did Fox and the Hound. And so now you guys are back. And we're going to be doing Oliver and Company tonight. Your pick, and I'm going to ask you why in a second. But beforehand, one of the things that I do research, on people. Maleko was in an episode of Hawaii Five-O. I knew this. He played a DJ in Hawaii Five-O, and I was like, oh man, that is really cool. But wait a minute. Hold the phone. Lauren was in an episode of Hawaii Five-O. What? And as a named character? Are you kidding me with this? Lauren, I need to know what was going on in this episode because I did not watch.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I was kidnapped. They spend the whole episode trying to find me. At the end, they find an abandoned well, and McGarrett and the whole team move the statue that's covering it. And there I am in this abandoned well covered in mud, guck, and dirt and filth. And I'm crying my eyes out. My hands are bound. And it ends in a big, warm, loving, wet embrace with McGarrett.
And I got to tell you guys, I did not tell her I was doing that, but I had it all ready to go. And I was so excited to pull that one out. So, I mean, that's awesome. That is great. You have an IMDb page. That's great. That is so exciting. So let's get to this movie that we're talking about here, because Oliver and Company was one of my favorites. And when I reached out to you guys and said, what do you want to do? It came up and you guys were like, oh, Oliver and Company, has anybody done that one yet? And I said, no, but I got to know, and I assume I know that probably Lauren picked this, but what was it that brought you guys to this movie?
That is another one. Yeah, that's another one that's 100% me. That was one of my favorite movies as a kid. I could sing every song. I probably still can. And so I grabbed Maleko and threw him on board with that one.
I like the movie too. It's when she said, let's do Oliver and Company, I had to go through my mind of all the fun characters that are in it, Cheech Marine, and some of the others. And just immediately I was like, yes, that's a great example of a Disney classic. And I think it fits in theme with the movies that we've picked so far in that general time period that kind of takes us back to our childhood.
Like the 80s, basically, because we did Fox and the Hound. That's kind of that same genre. But the interesting thing about this to me is this animation sits in between times for Disney. It was right before the golden age. This one was 1988, 1989. Here Comes the Little Mermaid and changes the game for them. So this one was very like on the edge of this very weird time in Disney animation. And yet this cast, like as I'm watching this cast, and we'll talk about the cast in a little bit, but as I'm watching the cast and you mentioned a couple of them, I'm just like, this was kind of like an all-star cast, and some of them were a huge get, especially for the time, including Mr. Billy Joel. What is he not Sir Billy Joel anymore? Somebody needs to fix that. And Mr. Billy Joel, and he does a great job in this, I think. But I also the soundtrack, like the soundtrack, definitely has like all the feels for me when I'm watching this one. But I will say though, when I was watching this, it's got an interesting animation style, and it kind of feels like it flips all over the place from an animation only standpoint. It opens on a shot of New York, which again is very poignant because it shows the Twin Towers, and a lot of media removed the Twin Towers, and they did not remove that from this. They still have it in there. Then they go in and things feel a little like the background. I don't want to say it feels sketchy because it's not sketchy, but it feels that they've sketched the background while the
Yeah.
foreground is the characters. But the characters that they draw have a lot of heart, though, I feel like.
I think you're right. We were commenting on the backgrounds and how the backgrounds were clearly hand drawn and almost unfinished in some scenes. Just really just an idea of a background, whereas the characters themselves have a lot of personality, especially in their faces.
Yeah.
I was actually looking forward to you, Rob, telling me a little bit more about the hows and the whys of why they looked the way they did and why they chose that, because I do my own little IMDb search and I couldn't really find anything on that. So not to put any pressure on you.
No, I think it was a money issue. Quite honestly, I think that the reason that they had it that way is that we're trying to save some money at a time when animation wasn't really doing hugely well. Again, this was on the cusp. They had done Gray Mouse Detective, some of that stuff that didn't hit huge, but like this is actual film footage. You can see the smoke in the bottom. That's well animated, but the background is just a very unique, like we kind of said, almost unfinished feel. And I think there's a lack of consistency in the animation too. So, but yeah. By the way, before we go any further, one thing I noticed, and I don't know if y'all noticed this or not, there is a heck of a lot of product placement in this animation. I don't know. Did you notice that or not?
I missed it. I didn't catch that.
Okay. So in the title screen here, let me show you. Let me educate you.
Oh,
we got Sony,
yeah.
Kodak, Coke, USA Today, and Enjoy Tab and Yamaha are all in here. Now I get that it's Times Square, but they didn't have to do that. They could have kind of phased that out. But as I watched through this, there's a lot of Coca-Cola logo. On the hot dog vendor's cart, there was a Coca-Cola logo. They drive by a taxi that's got a Diet Coke sign on the top. There was a lot of that in here. And again, this one has two with Coke and Tab, Tab being a product. Look it up, kids. Tab was a diet drink back in the 80s that your parents told you not to drink because it had saccharin, I think. And that
it tasted like diet. It was the diet taste. I still can taste it just thinking about it.
I don't know that I've ever had Tab.
Yeah.
You're not missing anything. That's fine.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
Yeah. But when it opens up, one of the things that is most happy to my heart is this song. And it's called Once Upon a Time in New York City. And we talked about this little pre-show. Is I always love to tell even Disney cast members it's my favorite song because no one's ever heard of it. And it's sung by Huey Lewis. And I know you're thinking Huey Lewis in the News? No. Just Huey Lewis. The News had nothing.
No news.
There's no news to tell.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. And Huey Lewis, one of my favorite singers at the time, in that time period. I was a Huey Lewis in the News fan and a Billy Joel fan. So it's great that both of them appeared in this.
And the great thing about Huey Lewis is it don't take money, it don't take fame, and you don't need no credit card to ride
this
train. Yeah. Again, Back to the Future, You're welcome. Big time Back to the Future around that time. But again, it's one of those that it's just Huey Lewis. And as a matter of fact, I actually got to meet Hugh Anthony Craig III in person once through a radio gig, and it was before a show. I was a huge fan, and I went up to him and I said, "Are you going to be playing Once Upon a Time?" What a dork I am. Are you going to be playing Once Upon a Time in New York City? And he said, "No, I don't think we're going to get to that one tonight." And it was just so perfect, exactly perfect. We make fun of Eric Idle because he forgets about Figment and having been a part of that attraction. Huey Lewis at least played it off that he knew exactly what I was talking about and was going to pacify me by saying, "No, we're not going to get to that tonight." But again, as it opens up, it sets the tone. We're in New York City. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of get your take on is that when it opens up, we open up on this box of kittens, and you guys are huge cat fans, I know. Oh no, don't cry, Lauren. No. And everybody gets a kitten and everybody gets a home except for Oliver. But that song is playing, and the song, if you listen to the song, it changes because in the opening part of it, it's talking about, ain't it great to be alive in New York City? It's a big old battle, tough a town, it's true. And it's very positive. and then the rain comes, and then poor Oliver is like in a box of water, and then is trying to make it. Lauren, don't cry. I'm so sorry, but he's trying to make it through the city.
It's
And
triggering.
I know. And the words change and talk about how tough it is, and I feel like that's like totally missed is how strong that song is, and maybe it's just my nostalgia kicking in. But obviously, when we talk about the kittens, you've got some feels about that one, Lauren.
True story. The first cat I ever owned, I was, as you know, my own personal pet. I was a sophomore in college, and I was coming out of a store, and there was a box of kittens.
Oh, wow.
I'm not kidding you. There was a box of kittens, a cardboard box, and in that box, there was an orange kitten. And I picked it up, and I held it in my palms, and I didn't name it Oliver. But I thought about it. And so I actually got to have that moment. I got to rescue the orange
cat.
Yeah, I did.
You're such a good heart.
Oh, yeah. Kitties. Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, I like cats, and I think that this one, if you've got like, and a lot of our fans love cats too. And as a matter of fact, someone in the chat said, "My family likes cats, so we should like this." So, yeah. I mean, it. But the funny part about this is, it's not. It's a. What are your cats' names again?
Freddie and Leo, and they're with us. They're just on either side of the computer screen right now. They may make an appearance later.
I was going to say at some point if they make an appearance, the fans will lose it. But I think that's really, other than that, it's kind of as a dog movie. I feel like, and yet it's like Oliver's at the start of it, and yet, and again, I don't know if I talked about this, but I meant to, is it's based loosely on Oliver Twist. And as a person that, I'm going to admit, I don't read, when I was watching this movie back in the day, I was like, oh, it's just called Oliver Company. I wonder what that means. I don't know. But I mean, it's, you got the Artful Dodger, and I mean, Oliver Twist, and it's Charles Dickens. So it makes sense to me now. At the time, I was completely clueless about that. But so it's based on Oliver and Oliver Twist. And when he is found by the dogs, then I feel at that point it's really a dog movie that has a cat in it, not a cat movie. And Disney does a ton of them. They do, the 101 Dalmatians, and we've got Lady and the Tramp, and and so this one feels like just another dog movie where the dogs can hear each other. They can speak to each other. They can't speak to humans, as opposed to like a Zootopia or something like that. But now that we've made it a dog movie, do you still like it?
Oh, 100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I think I agree with you. I think it's definitely a dog movie, because even in the dog movie, they have to learn to like cats. And dog people will always be like, oh, I don't know about cats. And then you find a cat that's really cool, like Oliver, and like all of a sudden your buddies.
Yeah, no, I got you. But you guys knew it was Oliver Twist from the beginning when you watched this as a youth, right?
I was today 8 years old when I learned that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I actually did make that connection.
Oh, well, see, again, musical theater kid, right? So, yeah.
I didn't read a lot either. Still don't. So
thanks for. This is why we connect so well, my friend. This is it. Like stuff like this. And this movie is going to be 35 years old in November. Yeah, that's crazy wild talk, I know, but and I guess part of the question that we'll answer at the end is that does it still hold up? It's a very short movie too. It's an hour and 18 minutes, and I think that's including the credits and who dubbed it in German. So I mean, it's not a very long movie. It's a very fast watch in the scheme of things, and usually animated movies are short anyway. But when you guys went back, yeah, that's true. You guys went back and watched it. Did you feel like that it was much shorter than you remember? Was there something that surprised you that you had forgotten about?
Actually, I hadn't watched it in 10, 20 years.
At least 20.
Yeah, I still knew a lot of the lyrics. I knew a lot of the words. But I had kind of forgotten the whole Sykes fiasco. Like, maybe just because as a little kid, you're like, bad guy, no.
Yeah, it's a very adult theme that runs through the whole movie. And I had forgotten that there were humans in the movie at all.
Oh.
And so when we went and watched and we saw the Sykes drama and, and the just the real adult drama of debt or death that's going on throughout the whole movie, like that's just was
the car chase.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all of that was way above my head when I was a kid because
Yeah.
it didn't retain. It was a surprising thing to see.
Yeah, no, but you mentioned something. You said you didn't remember there were humans in it. You know, in a movie like Toy Story, they were at a point where they were like, we're not really ready to computer animate humans, so let's just do toys because we're not good yet at humans. So you don't really see Andy and Andy's mom in the first one so much. But in this one, what shook me was how, and we talked about the animation differences, is that the background characters, somebody drew them as if they were trying to do people. I know that's a weird thing to say, but if you look at this picture, like, what's even happening here with this animation? With the, I mean, it's like somebody else took the reins to make these scenes versus what you see with Fagin and Ginny and some of the others once we get into it. Did this stand out to you, or am I again this day old
No,
guy?
we noticed a lot of really strange artistic
Yeah,
decisions.
artistic. That's a good way to put it. It was a mishmash of different artistic styles, and I don't know, like all together, it worked for me. Like it worked for me. Like it just seemed like okay, all of the extra scenes, like the credits, and the overshots of the city, those were clearly part of something else, and they're just put together to pull the story together. But when you have the scenes with the dogs and you know and Oliver, I think you wind up it just fades into the background. That was my whole thing that I liked about it actually is that it just kind of all fades into the background and it's really just about these animals.
Yeah. So a lot of this stuff is to me a time capsule too of the era, right? Like, I mean, it feels like it's this was the '90s or whatever, or the late '80s, early '90s. But apparently, when we see Oliver emerge after like this horrible night he's had, and now he's on his own because his free kitty box is gone. This apparently is supposed to be Roger from the 101 Dalmatians. Do we think that's Roger?
I guess there were a few cameos. Again, I just did my little tiny IMDb research, but apparently there's someone from like 101 Dalmatians or a character from 101 Dalmatians as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, I missed it all.
Yeah, during the Ruth Pointer song, there are some characters from Lady and the Tramp, because a lot of the dogs will respond around that time. But the other thing, again, talking about this as the time capsule, man, this one right here, the dude with the boom box, like breakdancing down the street. Like I looked at this, I was like, wait, what? Like, I mean, and then of course Oliver's getting into it, and he's like gonna go be a part of it. But I was just like, man, welcome to 1988, right? That was something. And then the other thing is during this scene, and I can't remember if this is it. We see everything from Oliver's point of view at like ground level, so we're not seeing a lot of people, which again makes it so they don't have to animate people. But some of the things that I saw, and I'm trying to see if I can find it here. Oh, here, as they're animating feet, this is going to sound weird. There's this one dude that walks by. Are these spats? Is this 1988 and this guy's wearing spats in New York City? Like I
Look at
feel like,
those.
right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I mean, we go deep in the plus here. We go deep. I mean,
Dickens.
I'm talking about footwear.
Dickens. There it is.
Dickens,
Yeah.
it
Did you just
throws
blow
it
my
right out.
mind? Is that Charles
Yeah.
Dickens? Whew. But as somebody who looks for a lot of Easter eggs and things, there's a lot of like numbers written on the walls and letters and things like that. And it's New York. I'm sure they were trying to make it seem like things were tagged or had been lived in. And so maybe they didn't mean anything, but I always assume that anybody who's an animator or a creator is always kind of hiding something that they want the viewer to find.
I think it's a safe assumption.
Especially a Disney
If
animator.
you're going to put something on the gel, it has to have a meaning, whether it's personal or whether it's something you've seen or whether it's just a little. What I love is we talked about this before in Stitch, where the animators will always put their the name of the company was A13 in
Yeah,
in different
A113.
scenes.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah, which was their room at Caltech, the animation room at Caltech. Um, A113, so it's on the license plates and hidden in different places. And Pixar's really great at doing that too. But I guess I just assumed that a lot of that stuff started late. But, I guess I secretly assumed that none of the, like, back in this particular time period, people weren't trying to hide things. They were just trying to get a movie done. I don't know. Could be either way. But the first time we meet Dodger, there's a hot dog cart guy who comes in, and there's a time where Oliver smells it. He's probably pretty hungry, and he goes to the hot dog cart and he wants to try to get some food from it. The guy shoos him away, and this is when Dodger comes into the picture, and he kind of sees what's going on with the kitty and goes, "This is a chance for me to get in." And we don't know what he's up to, but we know he's doing a con. Again, going back to the sponsorships and things like this, there was a USA Today billboard in Times Square, and here's Gannett clearly written. You didn't have to do this. Why did you do this? Gannett was the company that owned USA Today. Why go to this trouble for I mean, do they get like literal sponsorship money about this? It doesn't make any sense to me.
It wouldn't make sense that Gannett would be a sponsor of anything.
No.
You know, I would have thought it was just detail. But then again,
Maybe.
with everything else so unfinished, what an interesting detail to include.
Yeah.
Right. We're not going to finish
I
the
don't think that was
skyline of New
what it
York.
says.
Like, I
Yeah.
make
But we're
sure I
just
get this newspaper thing correct. God forbid this person has the correct shoes.
Yeah, no, for sure. So he meets up with Dodger, and played by Billy Joel. And when they meet up with each other, he's trying to, again, we feel like he's gonna like run a con on Oliver, because at first, they're dogs and cats, and Oliver's like, "Okay, you're a dog. I know you're a dog, and you probably want to eat me, so I'm gonna fight you." And he's like, "Nah, it's not like that. Trust me." And then he plays him. But again, here's when he meets him. Here's that thing I was talking about too. Like, what is that written on the wall, and why? Like, you don't just accidentally do that, do you, Malika? Like that RO5?
Oh, okay.
ROS. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Are they Mickey ears? Go back. Is it a hidden
No.
Mickey?
It's not a hidden.
It's not?
No.
No.
Would you stop seeing three
No.
circles? Stop seeing three circles everywhere you look.
I saw three.
It's
You are
fine.
wrong, sir.
All right, so because this is where Billy Joel comes in as Dodger, I want to stop and talk about cast a little bit. Oliver is played by Joey Lawrence, a very pre-whoa Joey Lawrence, before Blossom, before all of that mess. But this was a height for Billy Joel in the music that he was doing, and he goes, "You know what? I'm going to do a kids movie." I'm sure they paid him well, but I think he does an amazing job. I told my daughter today that it was Billy Joel. It blew her mind. She was like, "How is that possible that that's Billy Joel?" And again, the singing, the connection that he has to New York. I mean, he plays Times Square all the time. Not Times Square, Madison Square Garden. He sings about New York. He's a New York guy, and the fact that he gets to play this kind of street dog situation. Billy Joel was a big deal to you back in the day, I assume, right? Or am I making that up?
No, he was. He was. I know you were a big fan because you can sing all of the lyrics to all of his songs. But for me, I think Billy Joel and Huey Lewis both were synonymous with New York City. Billy Joel, he had that city vibe to him. He felt like he was from New York City when I was, listening and watching. And then the same thing with Huey Lewis is like he had that one song about New York, and New York Minute, and it just seemed like he was the guy.
Yeah. Why are you
In a New
smiling,
York-
Lauren?
No, that's a different song. No, but he has a song.
He does.
That talks about New York. And
Yeah.
I don't remember it. I used to have the CD back in the day.
Yeah. But there are some scenes in here like that, and this is when they do "Why Should I Worry," which is kind of like the earworm of this movie. As much as I love Once Upon a Time in New York City, "Why Should I Worry" is that one that you can't get out of your head. I know that you guys probably just watched it. You tell me you haven't been walking around like singing it.
Yeah, I think we had Alexa play it after we watched the movie. We had it on repeat for a little while. It's fun.
And you again, Lauren's feeling it. She's got it. It's such a good song.
We might get her to sing for you.
Yeah.
I was hoping she would sing it.
Ooh. Well, also we may have to hold out because at some point I think the folks are going to want to see the real cats, is what they're saying. Um, but when they go into the part where they're, he's singing that, and he's basically he's stolen these hot dogs, he's conned Oliver out of his share of them, and then he's kind of like on the run. And then one of the things that happens, of course, as would with Billy Joel, he's playing the piano with his tail, like, again,
So
like,
cute.
and
I
he's
love
got
the shade.
sunglasses. Yeah, the shades,
Yep.
right? I mean, that's Billy Joel all the way, right?
So awesome. I love it.
So
Um,
they animate after the voices are done, right? So
correct.
I feel like the animator is just he's got this Billy Joel,
Oh yeah,
vibe as
1000%.
he's drawing him out
Yeah.
there. You really start to make the dog look like him.
Yeah. No, I absolutely, positively. That's exactly what happens. See what I did there?
You didn't say it
No,
right. You didn't say it right.
absolutely, positively. That's not what it is.
Like, you gotta say it like he says it.
No, no. This is as good as it gets.
Oh,
Sorry. Um, so when I'm again, the cast is, when I look back on it, I'm just like blown away that somebody decided Billy Joel. That's exactly who we need to get for this, and that he did a good job.
Hmm.
I think that his acting part was good. I think that the singing part was obviously amazing. But I think he did and again, his connection to New York, it just feels like it fit perfectly. The piano and the sunglasses were just like icing on the cake. Um, the bad guy is Robert Loggia, and I don't know if you guys watch Family Guy or not, but I can't get it out of my head, this bit that they do with Robert Loggia, where he's like, this Peter's like, this is worse than standing behind Robert Loggia at the airport, and he says it's Robert Loggia, L, like, look, it's Robert Loggia, O, like, oh my God, it's Robert Loggia, and it's just, it takes forever, and so I cannot hear his name without thinking about that. But he plays the bad guy, and it works perfectly. He is Sykes. He is our villain, who, you would think like Fagin is a little bit the villain, but Fagin is just like the dad to these guys. He's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and so Sykes is Robert Loggia. Dom DeLuise, which again I think kids look it up, because to me, like in my youth, that was like Dom DeLuise was everything. He was Cannonball Run, and he was
Yeah.
just like everywhere, and he's the voice of Fagin. And then Roscoe Lee Brown was Francis, which was amazing. Richard Mulligan, who was on Empty Nest, which was a Disney product later on. There was a spinoff of Golden Girls, I believe. He was the doctor, plays Einstein. And then Cheech Marin, as you mentioned, plays Tito. And then Bette Midler is Georgette. And
yeah.
Cheryl Lee Ralph is Rita. And I was like, why does that name sound familiar? And she's on Abbott Elementary. She's Mrs. Howard on Abbott Elementary. And I'm like,
Oh.
and again, when I told my daughter that, she was literally watching Abbott Elementary today, so it just blew her mind. She was like, "What?" And then she does sing a little bit in the reprise of Why Should I Worry?" And you can kind of hear it. You can kind of hear that there too. So, I mean, again, fairly big cast, plus add Huey Lewis to that. I mean,
Yeah.
it just, and I don't know if this was just, hey, these are the people we can get at the time, or what, but it feels like a good, again, time capsule to the late '80s. Thoughts?
I don't know why I feel like I watched Dom DeLuise in a ton of movies. I was a huge fan of the Cannonball Run series and the Smokey and the Bandit and all these other movies that came out around that same time. But I feel like I can't remember any other movies that Dom DeLuise was in, but he was the go-to comedian, comic relief in all of the movies in that 5 year time period in the mid to late '80s. And so just his voice, his laugh, his asthmatic cough. That's Dom DeLuise. He's iconic.
Yeah. Well, here's a just a quick internet search of Dom DeLuise to show people if you hadn't
There
seen him
he
before.
is.
But History of the World Part One, Cannonball Run Two, Smokey and the Bandit Two, this movie Fatso that he was in, and An American Tail, which was
American.
1986,
And
just
all
2 years
dogs go to
before this.
heaven.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, he was an element of that time, I feel like. And so again, to have him on there, really puts a point on the whole time capsule of the late '80s. So that
Yeah.
was really neat that he
But
was
I
in
mean,
there. But
like, I'm curious, like Bette Midler, I'm wondering what made her do this. She had never done an animated picture.
Mm.
I mean,
Was she on Broadway at the time, or I
Beaches came
wonder.
out in '88. I
Yeah,
mean, it's like she
she's
was
also huge.
huge. So
yeah,
she was
uh,
a big girl.
let's get her on the phone. No, I'm just kidding. We can't do that. But
All right.
we definitely should figure that out at some point. So the music again was great. The cast I thought was great. The story of Oliver told in a very concise way. With again, it's not shot for shot a remake of Oliver Twist. There's not like an orphanage or anything like that. So, but it is, I think, really well. It gives enough throws to Oliver Twist to be able to be a nice homage to it. So again, the songs we were talking about, there was why should I worry, Once Upon a Time in New York City, and then there's Perfect Isn't Easy, which is Bette Midler, which is a great show-stopping number. Are you still
She
not
still
going to
sings
sing,
it
are you?
daily. She's in the bathroom all day.
Gotcha.
Not for
Is
vanity,
it
but
is,
for
But
is
humanity.
for
this is
humanity,
is this your theme song?
I can still sing that one from top to bottom. It never went away. I idolized Bette Midler when I
You were
was a
singing
kid.
it 20 minutes ago, right
Well,
before the
yeah, I
show.
mean, I was getting myself hyped, Get in the right headspace, Murata.
Yes. Well, again, maybe we'll hear it, maybe we won't. I don't know. But Streets of Gold was the other one, which was Ruth Pointer, and
Mm-hmm.
so that one is again sort of it's sort of neat that, the Pointer Sisters again, very big deal at the time. So that's kind of cool that she was in there singing it. But Streets of Gold happens when they decide, okay, Sykes is saying, hey, you got to give up the money immediately, Fagin. Fagin's freaking out. These dogs just, worship him, and they're going to do anything for him. So they decide to go to Manhattan to try to steal from some rich people. And I don't really know what the plan was, because they decide they're going to stop a limo by falling in front of it and making the limo stop. And then Tito gets in to hotwire it to what end?
I don't know.
I just have
It
that
seemed like
scene.
it seemed like a good plan. What they were gonna ask for money. It was one of those insurance. You get hit by the car, and they're gonna give
and
you.
the dog asks you for money.
And it's like, here, I'll give you some cash. Don't turn me in. I mean, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
But yeah,
it doesn't make it like
with his electrocuting wires.
I'm just like, what was the plan? Because he gets in there, he's trying to hotwire the car, and I'm like, they never really say what the plan is. They say what everybody's role is, but they never really say what the plan is. So it's just like, I don't really know what it is y'all are doing, but it doesn't seem to make any sense. So good for them though. But
And
that's
again, you got
that's
that
the
adult brain
question.
on there. As a kid.
That's true. The adult brain
Yeah, as a kid, you're just like, I don't know.
totally makes
It's
sense.
funny.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, there's a Chihuahua hotwiring a car.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Why wouldn't that be funny? Exactly. No, you're right. You got me. You got me. I'm just thinking too much. But it was, I'm watching it and I'm like, did I miss something? Did I miss where Dodger rolled out the plan and says, okay, you hotwire the car and then drive it to another location. But I mean, Tito pretends like he's going to drive it. So that's something. It just was very strange. I don't know. But again, that was a neat song, "The Streets of Gold," and then we meet Jenny, and so Jenny is this little girl who is apparently filthy rich, and also basically abandoned, because we find out through context that her parents are supposed to be coming home for her birthday, but they're still on a trip, and the butler is in charge of her, I guess, and driving her around. Why? Like, maybe he was driving her back from school, but we also see a thing later where she gets a school bus. It says bus, but it looks like a charter. And so I'm like, what were they doing in that scene where they were sitting in the limo in the first place? Because she's in her school outfit. I don't know. Am I asking too many questions, Malika?
You're asking the right questions. I just don't know that this is the time.
Okay, no, that's it's not a good time for me. Sorry, it's just not a
I
good
don't
time.
know.
Uh,
Because you're asking questions that I didn't ask when I was watching. I was just enjoying the film. I
suspension of
liked, like, when you
disbelief.
meet her. Yeah, when you meet her, she's a little girl. She's on her way back from something with her, live-in butler, and her parents suck. Disney trope. Her parents are either dead or ignoring her, and in this case, they're ignoring her. Although, didn't we read that there was going to be some violent death at the beginning of the movie
Oh,
that didn't get included?
you know, roughs. Again, can't trust everything you read on IMDb, but apparently, like, at the very beginning, there was a rough draft out there saying DeSoto and Roscoe
Roscoe.
killed Oliver's parents, and so Oliver was after
Hmm.
uh, vengeance.
They dropped that.
And
It
they're
was
like, that's
just sadder to have Oliver float away in a wet box than to kill his parents. I mean, why
More of
why
a
stop now, Disney? You know,
more of a Moses thing, right? Which is fine. It is what it is. But this movie's rated G. Do you think it was too intense for G?
when you think about the adult themes, when you think about how Fagin's going to get killed, the whole family's going to get killed if this insurmountable debt isn't paid.
Right.
Yeah, that's a scary thing, like really scary. And let's talk about how scary the pit bulls are. The
Dobermans.
Dobermans.
The
Let's talk about how
Dobermans?
scary Roscoe. They really, really animated them over the top. Is it too scary for kids? Probably not. I mean, kids were tougher in the '80s. Is it too scary for kids today? Maybe.
I just want to know if you were too scared.
last month when we watched it. Definitely, he was.
I
Yeah.
was frightened.
Had to sleep with the lights on. I get it. So there's a scene with Georgette where she's sitting here looking at all these pictures
Oh,
Look at
of her admirers. Is that Scooby Doo on the far right? Because it feels like Scooby
it
Doo on the far
is.
right.
Wait.
And
is it?
yeah, it's like up
totally
close.
Scooby Doo.
Yeah, it looks
This
like
one.
Scooby Doo on the far right, and then on the far left, in the small frame on the far left, it almost looks like Muttley, from like
It
Dick Dastardly's
does.
dog, because he's doing the little laugh that he did,
The-
and
Oh
so
my
I mean,
gosh.
yeah, and then the picture with the guy in the top hat kind of looks like Ratigan from the Great Mouse Detective that happened a year before this one. So
Oh,
it's just,
wow.
yeah, it's
Ah.
again, it's something they probably had a lot of fun with doing, with
Look at
all
the
these
twins
pictures.
in the middle too. It's just.
Yeah, it's
Get
fun.
it, Georgia.
No, no, we're not. No, shh, calm down. Yeah. So again, you were talking about Roscoe and DeSoto. Um, yeah, they do feel very Flotsam and Jetsam from Little Mermaid to
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Oh yeah.
Which they were
the
probably animating at about the same time.
yeah, the henchman. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, like lots of teeth, very scary. But in typical villain fashion, they're about to attack. Oliver smacks him, and then the response is, "You're gonna pay for that." I'm sorry, you were about to eat him. How like I feel like that was only the only fair response. Um, and then there's this whole scene with Sykes and Fagin, where we're learning that Fagin owes Sykes money, and that Sykes is a bad man, and he's on a pier, and he breaks off the mirror on the side of Sykes's car, and then he does it
Yeah.
again, like a callback bit to a model inside of his office later, which I was like, I don't know that I remembered that, but it's funny. It's a good thing.
That's funny.
Um,
That's funny.
so you guys watched this movie. You picked this movie. You watched it before. And again, thank you guys for everybody who's watching with us. And if you have not already, please give us a thumbs up, as it helps people to find us. And then wake the neighbors, phone the kids, as David Letterman used to say. Tell
Oh,
everybody. Oh my gosh, that there's cats on the show. There's a cat. Which one
Here's
is this,
Freddie.
Leo? Oh, it's Freddie.
Freddie.
His full name is Freddie the Fabulous,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
he is in fact fabulous. He spends 20 hours a day grooming, and the other 4
Sleeping.
sleeping. So
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
beautiful cat. Beautiful cat. Does not
No,
like to
that's
be held.
That's okay. I mean, that's what cats do, right? They live life on their own terms.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
We live in their house.
yeah. So because you know this movie so well, I thought I'd ask you a few trivia questions because I know
Uh-oh.
you guys
Yes.
love
Okay, this is you.
trivia. Yeah, and some of
This
these
is all
things are
you.
things that I noticed from the movie as I'm watching it, and I thought, oh, you know what, Lauren would love to answer this. So you ready? And
Yes.
if
Now,
you're watching at home,
just to
please.
remember, I failed miserably in Mary Poppins. Like I was 0 for 10 in the
You
Mary
picked
Poppins
that movie.
trivia.
You picked
Yeah,
that
well, I didn't
movie.
know there was going to be a test, so I prepared. Let's see what happens. Good.
Okay.
So in the beginning, when the kitties need a home, and there's a box that says kitties need a home, how much are they asking for the kitties?
It's not a lot. 25 cents.
Free.
Oh, it was
Eventually it's
free.
eventually it's free, but when we
Was it?
first
Oh,
That's right.
it
They
was
were.
$5.
There's
it
a
was
dollar
crossed
amount
out. It was crossed out.
It was $5, $3, and then free. So I guess yeah, I will accept that.
What?
Maleko
Yes.
comes in with that. I think free does count because I didn't say at any time, but yeah, the sign said
Yeah.
$5. Yeah, so there you go.
Okay.
Which is a great deal for a cat. I mean, a kitten. That's a good deal. When Dodger knocks over the sunglasses table, how much were the sunglasses?
Oh,
I know nothing.
they're 2 for 5.
But the funny no, that's completely random. I can't even believe you came up with that.
I
No,
don't know.
but I mean it flies up in the air and they go slowly over the sign. So like it stood out to me. I wasn't like pausing to see. It was $7. That's a
$10.
great deal. Nope,
$7.
$7. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can get a
7 for some
cat
real
for
designer
5 or
dogs.
glasses for 7. Cat for
Ah,
5, glasses
man.
for 7. Yeah.
Tough choice.
There's a hot dog
And
cart
somehow,
that rolls out.
at some point, Dodger winds up with glasses on. So, how much are dogs, man? There's added value there.
I mean, apparently they're free because Fagin has a bunch.
That's true.
Yeah.
And if they had value, he could sell them.
He could. He would have if they
I
did.
mean, yeah. He's willing to do some pretty nefarious things to get the money he needs. So even though he is kind-hearted, or we assume he is, there's a hot dog cart that they roll out. And do you know the name of the hot dog vendor?
Oh, Louis.
There
Is
you
it
go.
Louis?
It's Louis.
It is Louis.
Very nice.
It is Louis.
Finally.
That is correct.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go. And where is the hot dog cart set up? What's the address? What's the corner?
Madison Square? No? Times
I mean,
Square?
Times
It's
Square
the-
would be
at
like a good
the-
guess, but what's the
I thought
address?
it said Madison. Does it say Madison Avenue?
It's on the corner of
She knows what I'm talking about.
Broadway and 10th, 9th, Broadway and 8th, Broadway
Yes!
and 11th.
No, it's 8th.
He's like,
It's 8th.
Liar, liar.
It's 8th. It's 8th. You did it. Wow. See again. You knew exactly what I was talking about, though. You knew exactly what I was talking about, though. Yeah. So there you go. All right. Sykes has a license plate on his car. What does it say?
It says Doberman.
That is correct.
Nice.
You're just that good. You're just that good. Okay.
Is that good? Yeah.
Roscoe and DeSoto, the two Dobermans, do not have matching collars. What are the two colors of their collars?
Red and blue.
Yep. Wow. Yes. Like Maleko's sitting back there
Nicely
like you're winning,
done.
like you're winning the lottery for him. He's just back there
Well,
going, "Babe,
well-
we're gonna be rich. We're gonna be rich."
I just, in all fairness, I don't want one of your viewers to call me out. You did just show a clip of the both of them.
But I
Yes.
didn't notice the color of their cars.
Oh,
No, yeah.
okay.
Again,
Um,
I actually knew.
here, Georgette is very pampered. She sleeps on a bed that is on a pedestal. What is the pedestal comprised of?
Food dishes. Feet. No, it's not food.
Again, you're going like this is like the fastest answer wins kind of a thing. It's hilarious. I
Okay.
love that.
do you have a picture of it?
By the way,
He just
uh,
showed it again, and
By the way, Stephen and Ronald in chat said hi, Freddie. So just pass that
Oh.
along if you will.
Freddie's
That would be great.
Freddie's uninterested. You can tell them.
He's
Freddie ignored them.
uninterested.
Like us.
No, that's not good.
That's love. That's how Freddie shows
That's
his
cat
love.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Give up.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a pedestal of statues of her.
Oh, that's right.
Hmm.
Little
I can
kids.
see it.
Yeah.
I can see it.
But I mean, and as you
Yeah.
go around the room, there are a bunch. You will not know the answer to this question, but I heard it and I felt like I needed to ask it. When she meets Dodger and she's like, "Don't you know who I am?" She tells him how many blue ribbons she's won. Do you know how many blue ribbons she's won? I don't think you will. We're gonna just call it a night if you know how many she's.
I can hear her rant. Like I can actually hear the rant happening. You know, she gets that high pitched squeaky thing. She starts going off on him. I have 54.
Geez, that is freaking close. It is 56. That's incredibly.
Wow.
What the heck? That is so freaking close. She says, "I have
You don't get to call
56
this movie
blue
your
ribbons."
favorite movie unless you get something that close. That is good.
Man.
14 regional trophies and 6-time regional champion. Yeah, but 56. Yeah, that again, I'm blown away that you were even that close on that one. Yeah, that's pretty freaking amazing. Okay, so one other thing or two other questions I have that aren't actually, well, one thing I have from this, but I don't think you'll know with this one either, is that when we're in Fagin's houseboat, the entire scene, we keep coming back to a calendar page up on his wall that tells us what today's date is. Do you know what today's date is in the movie?
April
17th.
She doesn't like your
I think
answer.
I think it's
No.
I just think it's a lower number. I think it's April. It's like 7, 8, or
I felt like
9.
it was in the middle of the calendar. It was like the third Monday.
Again, I'm shocked that you knew April. It's April 21st,
Oh,
1988.
okay.
Which again, like we were talking about earlier, Maleko, I feel like it's one of those where like somebody's birthday was that day or whatever, because this movie came out in November, so it wasn't the actual date like when you were watching a TV show. So there was some purpose in April 21st being on there, but they just came back to it a bunch. But the fact that you knew it was April, Lauren, that is pretty huge. The character's name in here is Jenny, but there are two pennies in the Disney animated universe. Can you name either movie that has a penny in the same basic role as Jenny from this movie? That's not about this movie, so you're allowed to miss this one.
Isn't there a penny in Aristocrats?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Penny's in Aristocrats, and then where else would there be another penny?
Is All Dogs Go to Heaven?
No, don't even say anything else because you might incriminate yourself.
Sorry.
Is it a movie? Yes, that's what you wanted to say. It is a movie.
That's what I meant.
That's
Is
it.
it another
Yeah.
movie about animals?
No.
Penny. Okay.
Bolt.
I
Miley
know
Cyrus's
what
character is Penny, and the Rescuers. Those are the two.
Oh,
I
the
don't know-
Rescuers.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last one, this because I know you guys are good park fans. I don't know if you'll know this or not. But the girl Natalie Gregory, who plays Jenny, actually starred the year after this in an Epcot attraction. She wasn't the star, but she was in this Epcot attraction.
Okay, so
In
the year's
Future World.
1987.
89.
89.
Is it Captain EO? Was that it?
That's the only thing I can think of.
Was that at Epcot?
That's really the only thing I can think of.
You're going to go with Captain EO for 400.
Yeah.
Show me. No, I'm just kidding. It is not Captain EO. There was an attraction at the MetLife Pavilion that was called Cranium Command. And it was this boy inside, this boy Buzzy, and he was inside the head of a boy, like a teenage boy, and and Natalie plays the girl that sets his like sets his heart aflutter. And her name is
Oh,
Annie
okay.
in there. So, yeah. Again, I wasn't sure if you'd know that one, but again, I know you guys are big park fans, but you're probably more modern day park fans. Plus, you guys are in Hawaii, so you guys are probably more Disneyland than Disney World. So, we'll
Yeah,
give you a big old
Yeah.
pass on that
yeah,
one. But I
thought
know that again,
any amount of times.
you're fans, and the people who watch the show are fans. So I wanted to make sure throw that out there. So thank you for playing. And oh
Right.
my gosh, Lauren, you just crushed on so many that I was like, she would literally
Nicely
not know
done.
this.
Very
When I said that date and you went April, I was like, oh my, what the? Like, I was like, how is she knowing what this one
attention to
is? So,
detail. I
yeah,
lack.
I have no idea what
Uh,
anything costs, though. Apparently, if you put a dollar sign next to something, my
doesn't
brain just,
matter. You're
just,
just like, I'll take one.
yeah,
yeah, you should make it rain. I get it. That's fine.
yeah.
Um, So, again, when we're watching this movie, we get to that point where Oliver has found his way into Jenny's life. He's in her home. Georgette hates that. She works with Dodger to get him out. Then there's the whole thing about him being, taken back, and he didn't want to go back. And we've seen this kind of role before. He didn't want to go back to, to the family that thought he was, wanted to be there. And so then we get, Fagin gets this evil idea that he's going to the ransom the kitten, and he writes it out and throws it into the door. And she gets this note, and where's Winston during all this? Why is she allowed to just go out in the middle of the night with Georgette?
Well, he's not a nanny. He's a butler. So, he might have been butlering,
I was,
Buttling?
polishing the silver,
I was thinking, like,
washing the car. Yeah.
yeah,
Drinky sleepy.
yeah.
Yeah. Where are her parents? Is the real question, Rob.
They're somewhere else.
Where are her parents?
She's
They're,
out there they're making that money.
is that another trivia question?
Yeah.
Hold on.
No.
No, they are. They're on a trip. They're traveling
Yeah.
Abroad.
abroad. Do we know where?
But they don't actually say where they are. But I don't know what the 80s were like as far as letting your kid just wander in New York City. I mean, it could have been a simpler time. I don't know.
A lot of
Uh,
latchkey kids. My parents weren't around very much in the 80s, now that I think about it. Like, we would go to school and come home on our own. I remember I had a key, like, literally on a chain around my neck that I could
so you were
come
literally
off the house
latchkey.
with. So literally a latchkey
You
kid.
know, my mom is watching this, and she's like,
Yeah.
she's
crying.
She's crying for
Yeah,
you.
no. I liked the independence. Like, I remember my dad was always working, and my mom was always extremely busy. And so it was nothing to just walk home from school, and then my brothers would come home eventually later, make myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I'd
I
like
got
to
home.
think though that you would probably be a little bit safer in Hawaii than you would be in New York freaking city, but maybe I'm just
Yeah,
Especially in
overprotective
the
that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
yeah.
was,
This is before they cleaned up the city.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Giuliani had not rolled in yet.
no.
But they went in and they were like, hey, let's just let Penny go take a boat ride, walk through the park, no supervision whatsoever. And people are like, oh, isn't that adorable? An unsupervised child in the middle of New York City. Right?
It's true.
Like it's
That is
that.
that is a plot problem.
There's a lack of
Uh,
homeless in that scene.
Yes, lack of drug use and homelessness.
But I mean, it's just weird. And then she's like, okay, I'm gonna take him on a handsome cab ride, and
Who's paying for this?
right?
Yeah.
I mean, either she's got dad's card or she's flying like the silver bowl and the medallion around. Like,
Yeah.
what's happening? Like again, a question like you said earlier, like about the hot wire in the car, a question that a kid doesn't ask. But I feel like in 2023, a kid would
Who's
ask that
bankrolling?
question.
Yeah. Do they
Yeah.
take Venmo? How exactly did she pay for this Oliver Bowl? The Oliver Bowl actually did pop up, and I thought, where did that come from? Who made that for her? She didn't make it. So did she go to the butler and say, hey, I want this bowl with Oliver's? And he's cool. He probably would have been like, yeah, I got you. Or
But then
what?
Yeah, but then he
Yeah.
was like, "Hey, go pick it up on your own." You're like, I ain't got time for you. Just go
I put
go pick it
yours
up on your own.
wander off.
Also, by the way, I feel like this is probably exactly what Lauren's room looked like back in the day. The
Oh,
Tinker
everything
Toys and the.
except I did not have a television.
A little computer.
Yeah,
There.
no,
Well,
I
yeah.
Probably
What's
didn't
with
have
the
a-
didn't
computer?
have it.
Yeah.
That's an awfully advanced computer for the age. Like a laptop.
Well, you know,
Is that
you
a video
can
game?
draw anything. You can if you can dream it, you can do it. Um, so anyway, so she's out there. She's Sykes knows what Fagin's plan is to take the cat and ransom, but he decides to watch the whole thing. Sees an opportunity to steal the kid. He does, and then the kid, she's being held by Sykes. But then the dogs decide to break in because that's what they do. They decide to break in, including doing like Muppet Man. Did you see the 2011 Jason Segel Muppet movie where the Muppets were like, "We've got a plan. We're going to be Muppet Man," which is where like a bunch of them stack on top of each other and put a trench coat
Yes.
on, and they do that with a box of pizza. Are dogs that good? I mean, apparently, we're underestimating dogs. They will rise up against us.
These dogs will.
Yeah.
These New York dogs.
Yep.
In the
So, I mean, maybe you don't know. So, so they free her and then get her back to the house where Fagin comes in, and now they're all part of the family. Fagin's there hanging out with Winston, and again, it feels like risky business. Like, where are the parents? There is no supervision going on here whatsoever. Winston and Fagin are in the kitchen watching wrestling, and even at that point, Jenny is dressed like Annie. Is that on purpose? She's wearing the red dress with the white collar. Is that on purpose?
Probably.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because her parents have basically orphaned her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not
She's
a
an
bad
orphan.
life. I mean, she gets whatever she wants and buys a lot of expensive dog trinkets. But anyway, it seemed pretty weird. And then we have the big finale, and it wasn't the finale we see sometimes where Penny takes in all the dogs. I mean, I keep saying Penny, it's Jenny, where she takes in all the dogs. That didn't happen. It was, Fagin still has the dogs. He's still staying where he's staying. They're still streetwise, and they decide to do one more reprise of the song and go out into the city, and that's where we end the movie. And so I kind of like that. I kind of like that it wasn't one of those where on her own she decided to take in, 5 stray dogs and a homeless man.
Although she could have, because her parents are MIA.
Exactly. So we talked about the cast. We talked about the plot. We talked about this being a time capsule of the 1980s. Is there anything that you guys watched when you were watching this that you were like, oh, I also want to talk about this? Anything else we've missed?
What about Tito's relationship
With Georgette?
Georgette.
With Georgette. I
Where
mean, that's-
he's this big and she's this big
Yeah.
and he's obsessed with
and
her?
she's dissing him the whole movie, and he's like, "Oh, I think she likes me," and he's he's clearly not getting the message, but he's got some swagger, and he gets the girl in the end. I think it's adorable.
But then he doesn't
It's a
want her
big win.
because she wants to change him.
Right. That's right.
That's an epic
Start-
moment.
It is.
Starting with the
It's
fact
great.
that what she called, that was another trivia question I was going to have for you, is she calls him by one of his other names.
She does. She uses a.
Theodore?
No, Alonzo.
Alonzo.
Where are you, Alonzo? Yeah.
That's right.
By the way, speaking of a time capsule of the 80s, I came across this because I always like to see if there are any Disney parks tie-ins. Obviously, you don't usually see these characters in the parks, and they don't have an attraction. It wasn't that kind of a movie. But they apparently, at the time that the movie came out, they did a float,
Oh, cute.
which they would never do this now, I don't think. This is they spent money to make this float. It's got, like film strips on the side. Maybe this was another movie that they just put the Oliver and Company brand on the top of it. But you can see there's Jenny, and then there's an Oliver that's taller than she is, and a Tito that's taller than Dodger. But it's neat. Yeah, you're right. It's very cute that they actually had them in the parks. So this was at Magic Kingdom. So
Wow.
That's
I
fun.
wish they would do more of this. It's
They could have
neat
kept that.
maybe, but again, that's the kind of float that you could just
Use it for whatever movie,
right.
you know?
And maybe
Yeah.
they did. Maybe they retooled it for each movie, but it was like when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But although Dodger looks a little sickly here. I don't know what's wrong with him. He looks like he
Mm,
has a touch of the mange. Um,
yeah.
So does Tito, by the way. What's wrong with his eyes? Tito looks very sad.
I mean, again, they went back to their rough life, those
Yeah,
mean
street
streets of New
dogs.
York City.
truth.
Street dogs.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that was a very strange relationship. Here's a slightly closer look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the closer I get, the scarier it is. Again,
Yeah. Let me zoom out on that.
They could have
nightmare
put kids
fuel.
on them, right? Have to see
Right?
that. Just
Yeah.
put some big old.
Now, this was a time when this movie came out, we didn't own the Disney movies. Like, I remember my Disney library wasn't very big at this time. It was like, I forget how we consumed the movie. It was in theaters. It must have been on TV or something. It must have played, or you could rent it.
Blockbuster.
Yeah, I guess Blockbuster. I'm trying to think of how we consumed it back then. Now, of course, it's on Disney Plus. You know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you would probably have a Disney, clamshell box, VHS in your library. But like, those were later. Those are 90s things. Like in the
Yeah.
80s, we didn't have a big Disney library. So I wonder how is it that I saw this movie as many times as I did? No, I can't hear you.
That's me. I was so they actually released this movie in 1988 in theaters, but they re-released it in 1996 to theaters, and that's what Disney used to do is they would re-release movies to theaters after a while and matinee showings and things like that. So, but I will tell you that a great and maybe you can still do this with Lauren. Like I don't know, but a great like little cute date was to be able to take them to McDonald's to get the Happy Meal toy first and then go to see the movie. I may or may not have done that with this one, and the fact that they had these
Oh
Happy
my
Meal
gosh,
toys.
I remember those 1000%. Oh, the one
I
with the
feel like
I
I've
had
seen the
those.
Tito one
I
recently.
had my favorite one was the one where he's sitting down in the back with the sunglasses. That was my favorite one.
Yes. Oh, they wind them up and they
And
roll.
maybe it was because that's the only one I had,
Man,
but
McDonald's was a lot cooler then.
it really was.
Look at these. These are cool toys.
Yeah.
I feel like
Um,
McDonald's has gotten older too. Like it's not nearly as much fun. You go, they're brown and black, and the toys are.
What
Do they have
toys? No, they
toys?
don't have toys.
Toys.
they do. They do toys now, but there was a time where the relationship was severed between Disney and McDonald's because Disney was trying to get away from things that were unhealthy. And so McDonald's had like they had McDonald's on grounds at Disney World. There was like actual, and there's one still, but they had them at downtown or what was downtown Disney at the time, which is now Disney Springs. They had them at they had them in the parks. There was actually a McDonald's fry cart. There was a restaurant called Restaurantosaurus that had an Animal Kingdom that had McDonald's. There were a lot of tie-ins, and then when they severed that, the toys actually went to Subway for a little while. And so if you wanted the
Oh,
Disney toys, you had to go to Subway for that. But in more recent times, they've come back, including for the 50th anniversary, they had 50 different Disney toys that you had to go catch, and it was a challenge, but I
how many
got
do
them,
you have
Had
and
to do,
left?
Rob.
I did okay. I fell short by about 8, and through some fans and Neko, a good friend of the show, hooked me up. She and her mom, they went around and like hooked me up with the rest of them, and I have all
So you
50.
got the whole set. Of course you do. Of course you have the whole set.
That's
I
awesome.
That's
was
awesome.
afraid. Well, it depends on who you ask. But again, there,
Don't
for the
ask.
100th, right? For the 100th, I'm afraid that they're going to go in and get 100 of something, and I can't do that. They did it once with the 101 Dalmatian toys. They did 101 Dalmatians for the 101 Dalmatian movie. It's crazy. All right, so thank you guys for being on. I appreciate it. We've gone through this movie, and we're going to have to ask you guys a very important question, and I want to hear from you guys separately. And don't cheat off of Lauren's paper, Malek. I want to hear your unbiased opinion on this. So you've
Okay, I'm not listening.
you picked this movie, and then what is the isolated chamber? I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
you picked this movie. You rewatch this movie. We talked about this movie, but my question to you is 2023, does this movie stand up, and would you recommend this movie?
I think so. I absolutely do. I'm sorry, Freddie just decided he needed to make another cameo. I think this movie stands up, if for only one reason, the music. I just think the music, you can't beat that. So I still vote yes. I'm all for this movie. I was just as entertained watching it a month ago as I was when I was a little kid, and it's because the music is so great, I think.
I would suggest watching it for nostalgia purposes, but I don't think it holds up for younger audiences today. I think kids are smarter today. They would recognize the animation issues. Kids are a little more in tune to adult conversations, and so I think that the themes of kidnapping and debt or death and bullying, those things might not carry into the younger generation today. So it might not work for them. But you know, if you're feeling nostalgic and you want to get some Billy Idol,
You had it right.
Billy Joel in your life, Billy Idol too, by the way, would be great. But this is definitely a movie to go back to. So if you remember it, watch it again. Worth a rewatch.
Well, I'm a little embarrassed you said Billy Idol. Honestly, it's going to be a little bit hard for me to get over that. But I will say I agree with you that there's almost like a caveat to this, is that for nostalgia purposes, the reason that we started Deep in the Plus originally was to go back in and say, look, we just got our hands on the entire Disney catalog, and yes, you're going to go watch Mandalorian, WandaVision, anything new that drops. But just a reminder, there's a lot of stuff that's deeper in that catalog that you haven't had a chance to take in. And I think Oliver and Company is that lost classic, something that maybe you saw as a kid, you watched that clamshell, you somehow have a memory of it. It's good to go back to it. And I think it is still a good movie. And you know, to your point, would the kids who watch Bluey get as much out of this as, as we did back in the day? That's a hard one for me. It's not bad. It's just, to your point, like there are animation flaws, but it is an endearing movie to me, again, because the music is kind of like one of those things that draws you to any movie, and Kanto because the music, and Little Mermaid because the music. So to me, this one is a recommend for anybody. It's been a while since you've seen it, or you somehow missed this one back in the day, and it's a quick watch. It's literally, I think it's set at an hour and 18 minutes, but I feel like it's right at about like 70. I mean, honestly,
it
like
felt fast. It definitely felt
yeah.
fast. You know, in about the same time that you could consume Succession, you could enjoy Oliver and Company.
Like if you just need a bath after watching the latest episode of Succession,
you just need
go
to
ahead and just watch Oliver and
yourself
Company.
with some happiness.
Yeah.
That show just
This
makes
is
me
a good
sad.
pick.
I tried to watch it. Everybody's talking about it, and like I tried to watch it, but it's so sad. And it's one of those where you go, wait a minute,
We
I
always
can
have to wash
rewatch.
our brain with something fun and you know, like maybe
Ted Lasso after this,
is
you know,
a great
something.
choice.
Yeah.
After
You definitely
Succession.
should end the night with a Ted Lasso all the time. That is definitely a good recommendation. Not on Disney Plus, but it is definitely a good recommendation. Thank you guys so much for being with us and talking to me about this movie and picking this movie and coming on. And we need to hang out in some Disney parks someday. That has to happen. But also thank you guys for watching. Deep in the Plus is a very important show to me, and I love sitting here with you guys on Wednesday night talking about some movie that we've watched. Next week we have a panel discussion about Ever After, the Drew Barrymore Cinderella story. The week after that, we have a special guest returning to talk about Spider-Man Homecoming. So I feel like we got some good stuff coming up. Hopefully you'll join us next Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, for Deep in the Plus. Thank you guys for being here again, Maleko, Lauren. Thank you for doing this. When we will see you next time.
All right. Thanks again.
Guys,
Bye.